Hi, and welcome to 2012 Inclusion Fusion. It's an honor to be here with you today, and we just pray that you get a good glimpse of what God is doing through disability ministry here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm with Mike and Penny Hanlon today from Coming Home, LLC, and they're going to do a brief little talk to just let us know what it is that they do and how that they can bless the disability community through that. Mike and Penny, welcome. It's great to have you today.
Thanks.
Now first, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. Well, I'll let Penny start, but first I want to thank everyone here for allowing us to be part of the Inclusion Fusion web conference, because we're really honored to be here. So I'll let Penny kick it off and tell a little bit about herself.
I'm Penny Hanlon, and Mike and I have been married for 17 years. We have 4 children. We actually had 6 pregnancies. Our second daughter, Jessica Marie, passed away at 10 and a half months. She did pass away in the crib. Our 4th child, Gabrielle, is our special needs daughter. And then we miscarried between the last 2, and then our last was Andrew.
Great. Well, I'm Mike Hanlon. Obviously, like Penny said, we've been married for 17 years, and that's great. I do computer consulting as a trade, and I work with Penny directly on this business as her sales and marketing person, kind of her jack of all trades as well on the computer. So so we work together, and we work also with Family Advisory Council at the Children's Hospital here locally, and work on some other boards just to give back to the community.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us about your daughter, Gabrielle.
Gabrielle. Well, as parents know, you've got that one child who has the best pregnancy, the best delivery. She followed everything by the book. Mike and I actually went out to dinner one night, and on our way home from dinner, our babysitter called and said she was really worried about Gabrielle. So by the time we got home, she was actually in a catatonic state. That led us to calling the paramedics. We ended up at Riley Children's Hospital. And through a series of medical intervention, she ended up having uncontrollable seizures that landed her in the ICU. She was put in a medically induced coma, and that lasted about 10 days. Each time they tried to bring her out, she would not stop seizing. So that 4th time, when she did stop, Mike and I were just kind of relieved. And I actually felt like, okay, things are going to be just fine. And we ended there at the hospital for at least another month, and then we were able to come home from there, and our lives totally changed from that moment.
Yeah. And what is Gabby's diagnosis?
Yeah, after that time we found out it was mitochondrial disease, which is a genetic disorder. Okay. And so when we first got done finding out that they thought she had it, they sent us home from the hospital kind of without a real diagnosis. It was just maybe she had this. Okay. And so when we ultimately found out it was mitochondrial disease, we were told that she probably wouldn't live, through the year. A lot of what they were telling us was she wouldn't live for the next few months. And so we really thought we were just going home to, be with our daughter for the next few months, and that would be it. Over time, then, we started seeing that she was at least stable enough to continue living and growing, and so she was doing, fairly well. And so that's when really we were just trying to keep our heads above water, really just hoping that we could get through every day, just little by little. And obviously God helped us through every day, but we still felt like we were kind of just treading water at that point. And that's kind of where Penny kind of started getting a little bit more into her medical care, because we were just trying to get by, but now we're trying to figure out how do we do things at home. And that's where Penny kind of started seeing some patterns develop. I talk about that, I guess.
Okay, yeah. What were some of the patterns that you saw?
Well, and to add to that, our expectation was she will not live to be a year.
Sure.
Well, she grew to be a year and 2 years and 3 years. We had more children. Mike was doing more with work, and I was realizing that I was coming through the depression and the worry and the anxiety, and just coming to a point where, okay, I really need to be a part of what's happening with her, because I have so much more to manage, so much more to handle at home. The patterns were the doctors or the nurses or the agencies, whoever we were working with, were asking us the same questions. Date of birth, medications, you know, there's just a list of questions that seem to happen over and over again.
Yeah, and that's what led her to start writing things down, so that she would have it already ready. But she did something I thought was ingenious, which she started to group them into forms that were specific to the questions being answered or asked. So it's kind of cool, because then when they'd ask her a question, she'd have the answer in one sheet, as opposed to having 20 pages that she could share with them. She actually had it ready for them in really ingenious one-sheet answers, and that really was pretty cool for me. I thought that was really the kind of the beginning of what started Coming Home.
Okay, so then talk about that, how that progressed into Coming Home.
Well, I noticed personally, I was not so stressed as I'm going to the doctor's appointments. You know, she'd have weeks where her appointments would be 2, 3, 4 times in a week, or we'd have 3 therapists coming to the house and, you know, help with this agency or that agency. And with my kids in tow and trying to manage this, it was just a lot of information. But over time, I realized my memory, I wasn't having to remember everything because I had everything written down. So my days began to be a little freer, and my attitude was a little more relaxed, because even though I did have all the kids, I was still able to get things done and still able to get Gabrielle what she needed to have. And I wasn't so focused on why I couldn't do anything for her. I became more proactive in what's the next step for her. Where can I go to the next doctor or person, and when it came to managing all this stuff for her.
Okay. So Coming Home is the business, and then the medical organizer is what you're describing here.
Yeah.
Could you go into a little bit more detail of what exactly the medical organizer is?
Okay. Well, the medical organizer it's a binder, and the binder has within it the different sections that cover all of the information that people are asked all the time, and it's really detailed, you know, medical information that is baseline information. It's not a complete history necessarily, and it's not meant to be. In fact, that was one of the things that we ran up across. Was I was at a conference, and I was on a panel, and somebody stood up at the conference and said, "I'm carrying around this legal box full of information, and I take it to every doctor's appointment. I know every bit of information about my son, but," she said, "do I have to keep doing this?" That was her. I mean, she was really emotional about it, and really, like, you know, exhausted. And then someone on the panel said, "Well, Mike and Penny are developing this medical organizer, and it's going to be used for families." And so I did explain to her at that time, you really only need what is going to be needed to answer the questions. Most doctors, even as caring as that profession is, can't swallow the whole elephant at once. And so they really need small bits of information that they can use to answer their questions quickly and efficiently, so that they can understand what your son or daughter is going through. And that's what this does for them. And so it was really exciting as the binder progressed into the 18 forms it is today. It really started to take on a life, not just for Penny and I to use, but for other people to use, and that's really got us excited. The idea of helping other people de-stress their lives and really feel like, wow, I got a handle on this. If there's one area in my life I've got, it's this. You know, I may not be good in any other area, but at least, you know, medical information for that person is taken care of, and it's clear that everybody knows where they stand. So it's really great.
It's very empowering and encouraging as a parent perspective, even if you're caring for an adult or your parents. When you have to make those big decisions or serious decisions or just everyday medication decisions, knowing that you have all the information, you've already taken in information from the doctor, from your spouse, from whoever's involved, that peace that comes from knowing that you're making a decision and you're confident with the decision that you've made really is life-changing.
Yeah, I could imagine. Now, as I'm sure everybody that goes to doctor's appointments and things on a regular basis understands that things change. So as things change, share with me as far as how you guys have accommodated for the changes that happen with medications or doctors or things like that?
Sure. Well, when we created the medical organizer and created the forms, we knew we wanted to give people the option to be able to update it all the time. And so we included a CD with the organizer where people can take the forms, and when they download them to their computer, they can actually type in their information and print them out as they need them. And then later on, when they change information like medications, they just go ahead and update it, and they can just print it right back out again, and the most current version is there and waiting. So it's an easy way to do it. I mean, she writes handwritten notes right on top of the pages for me, and I take that with me, and then when there's enough of them to warrant me going in and changing it, I'll go and change the system. So it's kind of nice. You have the best of both worlds. You can write on it and know that the information's good, and then you go back later and put it in the computer and print it out again.
So when the paper becomes all sticky notes.
Exactly, it's all sticky notes, you know it's time to change.
Exactly,
Right.
Very good.
Exactly right.
Good. Now another aspect of what you guys have at Coming Home is the journal.
Right.
Can you talk to us about the journal?
Well, the journal, I don't know about you, Aaron, but I grew up in the best Christian environment. I grew up loving God. There was just never a problem. Personally, I felt like everything was great. God loves me. I love God. Going through life. Then, you know, I lose my daughter at 10.5 months. That totally rocks you. And then I have another daughter who's got a terminal illness, and I don't know when she's going to die. And things just started to happen slowly, and I was desperately searching for something that I could, not only, I knew in my head God loved me, but I needed to feel that love. So how do I find that? How do I do that? How do I put that together? I've always loved to write. I was always a journal, just every day writing and jotting things down, basically. As time went on, getting through Gabrielle and coming through some of those things, I was always searching for a resource that I could just put my thoughts down and, you know, really not only cry out to God, but see how much He still loves me and has loved me and has been there in spite of all the things that have happened.
So it helps to walk you through what you're feeling now, but also gives you the outlet to be able to read back and see what He's brought you through.
It's almost like a guided
That's
journal. And it's actually set into 3 different sections. The beginning section is called The View. There's a middle section called The Journey, and the last one is called The Love. And there's questions that guide you, and it's just a start. And as you read over it, it just jogs your memory into, you know, what was life like before things happened, and then what was life like when you're in the midst of that trauma, that crisis, that medical ER visit, whatever. And then that last part is the love, and how you have seen God's really been there every step of the way. And as you write all that down and you're putting your thoughts down, you look back and you can see God really was there. And you know, the fog that you were in, or the depression that you were in, or the anger is now turned into joy and healing and acceptance and love for something that you just didn't know how to love.
And in the journal too, you know, we talk about it being about perspective. When I first read the questions that she had started writing down that she was kind of going through herself, I'm not a journaler, okay? I'm not. And yet, it really spoke to me. All the questions were questions that even I, as a guy, could sit there and go, I could tell you exactly how I felt. Because it was guided. And she asked the questions, and then put a scripture verse on each page. We kind of went through and kind of figured out what's the best way to lay this out so that people could really be guided through the whole experience. But I really felt God's hand in this work. I mean, I knew right when she had kind of created it that this was really something that was going to help a lot of people, because I could just feel the questions reaching out and saying, you know, answer this question. And when you answered it, it became something where it was living and breathing almost. You know, you could just see how, just in answering the question, you could feel better, and you could heal from the fact that the child is maybe not going to have the life that you expected when you first, you know, found out you were pregnant or something like that. You know, we find that out, and then later there's a problem. You just didn't realize that it was going to be different. So I think it is a great perspective when you can look back through the questions and really get what God has done to change what the first questions all the way to the end. You know, it's pretty awesome.
And so many times, Aaron, it's really easy when you're raising a child with special needs to just be so focused on the illness, to be stuck in that moment of what's not working, what may never work, what cure may never happen. You know, they're still like they were. And to be able to come through that on the other side and realize, you know, God loves them so much. And he has such a special life and plan for them. And for you, that's why you're their parent. And putting that down, it just was really healing for me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love your perspective on it too, because as a guy,
Right.
I know I'm not a journal either, and to think, oh, talking about feelings and all this stuff, guys, we're not supposed to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But to be able to hear your experience of being able to use it and work through it and process and heal from it, that's pretty neat too.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So talk to me about your goal for coming home.
Okay. Well, you know, our biggest thing is with both products, and kind of you had said something the other day that really struck me, because when we were talking about this conference, which was, we have two products, but the two products are about two different things. One of them is about helping people, and the other one's about healing people. So as a goal within our business, it's really about sharing God's love with people through these two mechanisms, the helping part and the healing part. And I think everybody needs that. And I think once you have the helping part under control and things are less stressful, you can start to see how your life can be normal, and it's a different kind of normal. We call it our new normal, but it's a normal. And then the other part is the healing that you need to go through, so that you can understand, like Penny said, that God really does love you, but also that this was meant for you. You know, this is not the life you were supposed to live. This is the life you're supposed to live. And I think with the two resources, it really, you know, can help people and heal people, and that's really what we want to do.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Good. Now, can you share some stories about families that have been helped and healed through your products? Sure.
One of my favorite is this mom. We were just so tender with her because her son was in a wheelchair with multiple disabilities,
High functioning.
Very high functioning mentally, really all together there. And he was off to college. It was his first year going to college. So this was in the summer before her son was going to college. And as we were talking about the organizer, she had tears coming down her eyes, and she was so excited to have one because she knew that she would be able to put all his information in there, and it would be in the backpack that was on his wheelchair. So he would be able to tell his roommate, listen, if something happens, here's my information, here's my family contact. That mom just went on about how she just felt such a comfort and relief to know that even though she was not going to be right there on campus, everything that anybody else needed to know about her son would be right there.
That's fantastic.
So that was
she
neat.
really, the peace of mind in her face afterwards was that was really cool. So we both loved that. And then another family had, you know, kids with different issues, but one of them specifically, she had it was more of an autistic nature, and so she had looked at one of our forms, and because she had them on the CD, we had put on the CD an instruction on how they could customize it themselves. So she had taken it and customized it because he needed a more regimented schedule than what we outlined in our form, which was cool for us because we want them to be able to feel like they can take it and make it their own.
Absolutely.
We want them to feel like they can customize it, and that in the end they get the benefit out of it that they really need. You know, if there's something that they find that's really ingenious that we left off, you know, it's great when they tell us. And sometimes they do say, well, could you do this form differently, or could you add this field? So it's always interesting when a family like that gets the benefit. Sometimes it's the benefit of being able to make it their own, and that's one of the things that we found. And another person who got one just knew us well and knew that we had it. And initially, it wasn't even intended for someone with special needs. It was more just to keep track of information about their son or daughter. And it was at this time, I think it was a daughter. And she had said that in the midst of just keeping the information, all of a sudden the daughter had a real medical issue, and was found out to be diagnosed with a medical issue. And so she already had the information up to date, and all she had to do is kind of add the newfound information. And it meant the world to her that she was able to do that. So that kind of was a special thing that that she communicated back to us is that she found it to be very helpful.
And we still get doctors and nurses telling us, you know, thank you. I love that you have this. I love that you already have this information, and which is great.
Yeah, we were at an agency yesterday. Actually, we had stopped in to a potential client, and we were talking to them, and it was funny because she mentioned, oh yeah, I don't know how we mentioned it, but our first pilot program was with a hospital, and when we did that, they started creating these binders to give out to their patients, you know, like, and so in the end, she was like going, oh, I love that idea, you know, that's such a great idea, I really need that, people really need to have that. She remembered it. She was the one that brought up this hospital that was doing this, and it was our business that had started that whole process.
And she actually, she had a client too that used the organizer, so she remembered it from one of her clients that used it. So
that was pretty cool.
And she hadn't been.
That was just yesterday, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Perfect timing.
Yeah, good timing on it. Yeah.
Excellent. So I love hearing the stories and all of that, but I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit about how the people that are watching can get their hands on these.
Okay. Well, I know that the conference itself, the web conference, has a conference store, and so the Inclusion Fusion store is the best place for them to go, you know, after the conference to get their hands on it. We will have, you know, either one or both products listed, and they can maybe even bundled so that they can get some. And I think it would be great for churches to take advantage of this as a way of reaching out to the community and knowing that they could help a family that shows up and says, I would like to see what this church has, but does it have special needs ministry, and does it really help them be part of the community? I think that they could have either or both of these as resources available to help those families in that time when maybe no one else is giving them a resource that's going to help them do that. So through the Inclusion Fusion store, you know, I think that would be the best way to get it.
Yeah, that reminded me, isn't there at least one, if not more, churches here in the Indianapolis area that do purchase your organizers to give to their families?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Definitely.
We've had churches purchase the journal for their prayer ministry, and we've had churches purchase the organizer for their health ministry.
Okay.
So it's been a variety of different ways that works for them, and then just individual families purchasing them as well.
Definitely.
So church leaders, even if you aren't personally affected by disability, you can still help to embrace the community by getting these resources to help out. Well, Mike and Penny, I really appreciate you. I just love what you're doing. I love your hearts, and I love you guys personally. I think you're fantastic, and we're grateful to have you here. And thank you so much. And everybody watching, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Great.